It's Homo Politicus. You're live on Enterprise Television. Kingsley Bass is my name. Many thanks for joining me today. Let's discuss some of the major happenings in the country today. I'm talking the country Nigeria, and we would shift the attention to the fight against corruption, or if you like, alleged corruption in the country. Well, let's turn attention to what has been trending this past few days: the arrest of the social media influencer and political activist Martins Vincent, popularly called the VeryDarkMan. Well, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has finally announced or confirmed his arrest. Well, there have been speculations. There was no doubt at some point that he was arrested. At some point it was said it was the police. At some other time it was finally confirmed that it was the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. But yes, they have released a statement finally confirming his arrest. And they say that this is following several petitions pertaining to grave allegations of financial wrongdoing, which could not be ignored by the commission. The father said that he has refused, before the arrest, to honor invitations, several invitations, and that's why they arrested him. They confirmed too that they had gotten the order to get that done. Well, let's get talking about that. Following his arrest May 2nd, that was Friday, May 2nd, 2025, there were lots of speculations. Some say, it was because he visited the bank did this. Some say the staff of the bank must have called authorities. Several speculations. Now we hear the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission finally admitting to arresting VeryDarkMan. Well, let's get talking. Again, welcome to the broadcast. This is Homo Politicus. Kingsley Bass is my name. I'm pleased to welcome you. I'm joined today by the barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, Maduka Onwukeme. He joins me virtually today as we discuss this very important conversation. Maduka, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Kingsley, for having me.
Appreciate that. You see what's been trending with the VeryDarkMan. He's getting support too across social media platforms. As a matter of fact, on Monday, May 5, he had some of his supporters storm the streets of the Federal Capital Territory. First, they went to the headquarters of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, where it was being held, where it's still being held. They also stormed the branch of the bank where he visited before he was arrested. But let's get straight to the statement released by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. They've now confirmed his arrest and stated reasons why. Before now, I'm sure if you've been following, there were allegations that he was arrested as a result of cyber crime and the rest, and there were thoughts as to how the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission would be prosecuting or arresting first and prosecuting one for cyber crime. But then we're here now, statements confirming his arrest and why they arrested him. What do you have to say about the entire process so far?
Well, first of all, let me begin by saying that the actions of the Efcc can be faulted and arrest is you can't just what happened in the case of VeryDarkMan wasn't an arrest, it was an abduction. From the stories we were told, he was hooded, and they said even the DSS arrested him, and then he was handed over to the EFCC. And after his arrest, it took over 48 hours, or almost 72 hours, for the EFCC to say, yes, this man is in our custody. It was an abduction and a kidnap, because ordinarily, when an arrest is made pursuant to the law. Somebody has committed an offense and is arrested for that fact. So you're not doing it based on any personal grudges or any ground. And there are procedures for arrests. The person should be informed of the reason of his arrest. he's entitled to bail, and the rest of that. So family members, even access to family members. So the initial silence from the EFCC was quite unsettling. Then beyond that, so I also wonder why EFCC said, because the charges against him are not known. They said they received petitions from members of the public. You don't need an individual's presence to investigate petitions. You said there have been financial infractions or allegations of financial infractions. That can easily be done. That can easily be investigated. You can call for, EFCC has the powers to go through people's bank accounts and for infractions, to look for infractions. And if somebody has said VeryDarkMan, committed financial crimes, the commission can as well ask for evidence, go through the evidence of the person. I believe an arrest should be the last step in the legal process and not the first, because what you see is EFCC is struggling to say why he was arrested. No offense. They just said there are petitions.
Well, they stated first that they had extended series of invitation to him, but he refused to honor them. When that happens, do they not have the rights, to then go after the person who has refused to honor an invitation?
You will know that this was a statement they made 72 hours after this man was arrested. In fact, it was a statement they made admitting he was in their custody. So we should even take that with a pinch of salt. So when they say that they've extended invitations over what? What the offense they said this man they are investigating him for is even vague. It's not clearly defined. Basically, there's a difference between saying that there are allegations against you, probably, let's say that there have been allegations that you were involved in some issues relating to abduction and all that. And there are some things I can say that we have allegations that this man is involved in kidnapping. We've investigated, and based on our investigations, we had to bring him in. The statement of the EFCC is vague. Okay, if I ask you, what are you investigating VeryDarkMan for? What is it? Is it money laundering? Is it that? Is it cyber fraud? What is it? It's very vague and it's not clear. And for an agency of that level, when you have things get to this and EFCC issues a statement, and the statement is vague, it's something to be worried about, especially with allegations that the process is being politicized, the process at EFCC, powers of arrest, prosecution, and the rest of that. So I believe that issues like this erode the public confidence in these institutions. So it's like I said, it leaves a sore taste in the mouth, and I expect that EFCC does, not just EFCC, security agencies do better than this.
All right, let's
let arrests come after investigations.
Okay, very quickly, let's probe further, the statement of the commission, which was, by the way, posted via their official social media handle. And it states, quote, that the petitions pertain to grave allegations of financial malfeasance, which cannot be ignored by the commission. What do you say to this? Is this still vague? They say, quote, financial malfeasance.
And that's what I said. The statement financial malfeasance is vague. There's a difference between that we're investigating this man for bank fraud. We're investigating him for, say, hacking people's accounts. At least that shows that you've started something. It's vague. When you say financial malfeasance could mean anything. It could mean stealing people's funds on their bank accounts. It could mean telling somebody you have a house for sale when you don't have one, and then collecting and then getting payment and not delivering the goods they paid for. It's vague, and like I said, EFCC's mandate is in respect of financial crimes and corruption, or I hope you know.
Sure.
So a body with such a mandate should be able to state specifically that somebody alleged that this man converted the sum of so and so amount. We have investigated, and that we found out that truly he received this amount of money, and we have extended invitations to him to come and explain why he received this amount of money from so and so person and didn't perform the tax he was meant to perform for receiving that money. And that's why we arrested him. Saying you receive petitions of financial malfeasance, it's vague.
Well,
What is by law? It's an offense. You arrest people for an offense defined by law. There's no offense of financial malfeasance in Nigerian law.
Oh, all right. So, do you sense, from your point of view and from where you stand, viewing this, do you sense that, there's some form of witch hunting here? Because this young man has been very vocal. He's at some point, several times, dared the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. He's said categorically, and those clips you can find across social media platforms, his handles, that the activities of the commission are corrupt, and that he has proof, and he's dared them to come after him. Some persons have said, "Oh, this is the commission trying to prove to him that they can do to him what they want to do." By the way, in the statement of the commission, they say that that is not the case, right? And they say the public should allow them do their job. What do you say to that?
Well, like I said, if we have that perception that this is a witch hunt, the EFCC created room for that. Because like I said, why arrest him in the manner you arrested him? You have to cover his face, and then it took you over 72 hours to even admit that this man is in your custody. Then you are now issuing a statement. We expected to hear that this is an offense this man committed, an offense defined by law, the extent of your investigation, and if possible, today is Tuesday. Would have expected that by having arrested him on Friday, you should have been arraigned in court on Monday with your evidence of what he has done, served on him, and asking for a trial date. But it took 72 hours to even admit he's in your custody. And after the 72 hours, you can't even say the offense he committed. And when you can't say that, and then you have no intention of charging him to court for the said offense. You said you are still investigating petitions, financial malfeasance. It's quite vague. So what do you expect people to say? Especially when there has been some back and forth between the agency and VeryDarkMan. And this is not the first time we're seeing EFCC threaten people. We had Professor Odin Kalu, criticize EFCC, and he was threatened that they would arrest him for criticism of the commission. So when you've had such precedents and you have something like this happening, the witch crying at night, the baby dying in the morning, what do you want people to say?
The last statement, the very last sentence in that statement by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says, as soon as investigations are concluded, charges will be filed. From the legal point of view, Maduka Onwukeme, is this how the law works? They say as soon as investigations are concluded, charges will be filed.
That's not how the law works. If you have allegations against somebody, you are meant to prove it. And if it's even criminal allegations, you are meant to prove beyond reasonable doubt. So you are meant to get your evidence, and go to charge this person to court and prove. There is no provision of the law where you hold people down and you are investigating. You arrest them, and even where you have some provisions that allow for remand orders, there are specific limitations to that. You have a situation where this person being outside, they might likely tamper with evidence, they might likely intimidate witnesses, and the rest of that. That is only when you can have such a situation and you say you want to hold them first and you conclude. And even before you do that, you have to show, before you get court orders to remand people, under the provisions of the law, you have to show that you have at least done some bit of investigation and there's some prima facie case against this person. This is what you're investigating him for. And so you now need him to be kept for you to conclude your investigation within a given time, 14 days, 30 days, as the case may be. And within that time, you must conclude. If you don't conclude, you have to release him or apply to the court and say, this is the reason why I've not concluded. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the EFCC itself is not a lawless body. It was a body created by law, and it's meant, and in many cases, the court has said they must obey the law in their operations. all their duties, whatever they carry out, must be seen to be lawful. Otherwise, the court will say you've not done well and can invalidate whatever you've done.
Well, in closing, just before we let you go, what does this mean for the fight against corruption in the country? Because that's the primary mandate of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, right? And then public trust. You know, on one side is their mandate, on the other side there's public trust. You know, that the public trust what they are doing, trust in the process, and indeed supports the job that they are doing. With what they've done, do you think that this would further erode public trust or revive it?
Well, as it stands, there is no public confidence in the EFCC. In fact, in most of our institutions, you should know that. This is, and VeryDarkMan, people like him, characters like him who come up and become public champions for accountability and anti-corruption. Those people came up due to the gap created by the failure of our own institutions to hold people accountable. So people, you find out that people protested over the arrest of VeryDarkMan say he is more effective than the EFCC, the police, and our courts in giving justice to people. It takes me saying, VeryDarkMan, somebody's owing me, or somebody has treated me wrongly, or a bank stole my money, and he puts this on his platform, and justice is served. So you now have a situation, those same institutions that, due to their failure, people have to rely on VeryDarkMan, justifying to the public that, oh yes, we have failed, we can't even protect you. So that even the people who have come up as public protectors, we go after them. It is not them. It's not good for the image of the commission, like I said. It's this, whoever told them to do this, whoever advised the commission to take this step, never had their best interest at heart, because at this point, they've destroyed whatever confidence or the little positive image the commission has in front of Nigerians. So you can see what people were saying, release VeryDarkMan, and they were calling some other politician that they should hold that one in custody. It's not nice.
All right. Maduka Onwukeme, barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, I'd like to thank you so much for being a part of the show today and for sharing your thoughts on this subject matter.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for having me, Kingsley. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good one. All right, there you go. That's the conversation today. Homo Politicus. You can stop by the comment section. Let's know what you have to say regarding this. We'll continue to follow this matter and see what happens. Just to let you know, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission did say too that, he's been granted bail and they're waiting for him to meet his bail conditions. We would get to this even closer, even further, and get to hear from his legal representatives and get talking about this some more in coming days. In the meantime, let's go fetch you some more development. Homo Politicus today, and that's that. Again, stop by the comment section. Let me know what you think. I'll be reading, I'll be watching, and of course, commenting and replying your messages. Kingsley Bass is my name. Until next time, please be safe, and God continue to bless the Federal Republic.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.
Come back, still on our Enterprise Morning, and our main conversation. The presidency has faulted the recent claim by Akinwumi Adesina, the outgoing president of the African Development Bank, on Nigeria's GDP per capita. In a recent report, Adesina was quoted as saying that Nigerians today are worse off than they were in 1960.
The AFDB chief was also reported to have said that Nigeria's GDP per capita in 1960 was $1,847 and $824 in 2025. Reacting, the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Mr. Bayo Ononuga, in a statement on Monday tackled Adesina, saying the figures he quoted are not correct.
Onwukeme blasted Onwukeme, saying his conclusions were based on inaccurate figures and an incomplete understanding of Nigeria's economic progress. According to him, significant progress has been made in various sectors since 1960.
Dismissing Adesina's claim, Onwukeme said Nigeria's GDP was $4.2 billion in 1960 and per capita income for a population of 44.9 million was $93, not even $100.
The presidency added that GDP per capita does not indicate whether Nigerians in 2025 will enjoy better access to healthcare, education and transportation, such as rail and air transport, than in 1960. This premise, according to the presidency, suggests why Dr. Adesina should not have arrived at his conclusion.
All right, that's the reportage we have now. Let's get talking. We still have with us Emeka Maldonado. Emeka, you are one that truly does understand this better. I would love to believe even more than Onwukeme has just stated here.
No, it's my guy.
Yes, it's your guy. But of course, we are not in the place to dismiss what Adesina has said. He is in charge of the AFDB, one of those symbolic and biggest financial institution that he has more than enough information to what he had just stated. So why would Onwukeme, who is just but a communication strategist, want to,
fault his claim?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think it's all just, both of them are just saying the same thing. But, politics got into the mix. And then it appeared as if, there was a dissonance. No. Dr. Onwukeme Adesina, of course, as president of the African Development Bank, he understands, a lot of things about how economies in Africa, I think the 53 or 54 nations of Africa, have been faring. Because don't forget, AFDB has financed projects in Nigeria. They finance initiatives in Nigeria, ongoing initiatives in Nigeria. So they have a helicopter view of a lot of development. But the point is this, it's just like the World Bank recently warned Nigeria, that effort must be taken to prevent more people from going into poverty by 2027. The IMF also issued a warning to Nigeria to become prudent, to be mindful of how it's spending money. Now, the World Bank has brought out another warning that over 70% of the rural poor, of those in rural areas in Nigeria are poor. So all of these things are meant, as signals to you. But what are they doing? They're saying, no. And what's the presidency doing? And no, we are doing well. The reforms of presidency. You see, it does not show that you are serious. And that's the problem of, miscommunication. Nobody is saying you are not carrying out reforms. Yes. The fact that, the fact that you wash your car every morning doesn't mean that, some debt will not come on it. That's why they are saying, yes, you wash your car, but maybe the method through which, by which you're washing this car on a daily basis is not enough. You need to do more. So, yes, that GDP, the Nigerians in 1960 were better off than, yes, we had a smaller population. But, of course, we could look at it that, okay, life expectancy as at that time was 37, according to what some experts have said, was 37. But today is 52. 52, 53. Okay. Now, we look at it that education has improved, the population has increased from 44 million at independence to over 200 million. Nigeria, there have been more resources available to Nigeria, none of that. But the question is this. Look at a country like Kuwait. Is it not the fifth largest oil producer in the world? They have 5 million people. Look at what they produce. So you look at the quantum of the resources divided by the population. You see that those people are even doing better. So what it means is that we need to work harder because our population has increased. I don't think Dr. Onwukeme Adesina meant it in negative point. But he was trying to say, look, if you insist on calculating by GDP, then you will run into a storm. And I'm happy that this GDP issue now is being put under the satellite. Because successive Nigerian government just love talking about GDP. I have said it on this table and at different fora. I said it is dubious using GDP. Because GDP can mean anything. GDP is just the sum of activities engaged in by the people. Economic activities. You heard recently National Bureau of Statistics was talking about even crime, even smuggling of vehicles also can count as GDP. Even prostitution can count as GDP. There was a time Italy rebased their GDP. They added prostitution and gambling to it. So it's a sum of activities because money is exchanged, right? So you can even add kidnapping. You can add banditry. You can add terrorism to it. So that can never be a foolproof measure of, of determining how the economy, is impacting the lives of the people.
So what can be used to determine that? Yes?
The HDI, Human Development Index, it talks about how many children are educated in school. It talks about what's the proximity of what's the nearest hospital to you.
So how do we have it that no too much emphasis laid on this human? I mean,
on GDP, right? Is that hey, no, that is why I'm happy now. Onwukeme himself. But Onwukeme himself has come out to say that we cannot base, we cannot base the measurement on GDP. I said, thank God. So now, even the people who have been hiding with GDP now realize too that they've been fooling themselves, that they've been lying to themselves. And that is at the heart of our problem.
So
when we choose,
we are leaving the bottom line. I mean, we are leaving the main point, and then we are focusing our attention on something else.
Thank you. So the fact that I'm happy at what Onwukeme said, that GDP cannot determine. So what it means is that if you want to look at a quantum of economic activities, do you know, I was reading something yesterday, that there has been a lot of economic activity in Borno State. If you look at the internally generated revenue of Borno State, it's even higher than some other states that are not suffering insurgency like Borno State.
And where is it coming from?
Development agencies. Let's say about over 100 development agencies. There have been construction going on in Borno State, hotels and houses. I said they are resettling people. So that the resettlement program too, has been bringing in money. People have been employed, taking food to these people, carrying these people, back to their villages and all of that, helping them to get resettled, government giving them money, and a lot of money. I don't remember the figures now, but a lot of money. And this was done by an international agency. A lot of money has been coming into the coffers of the Borno State government. But will you now say, oh, now Borno has more IGR than maybe one of these states in the south that's not suffering insurgency like Borno State? You'll be deceiving yourself. Because when you look at GDP per capita, you will see that it's like the people of Borno State, are faring better. But it's not true. If you look at the Human Development Index, a lot of people are still displaced in Borno State. A lot of people cannot go to their homes. A lot of people don't have access to health facilities. A lot of people cannot send their children to schools. Schools are shut down. So you look at the Human Development Index, there's a lot of gaps. So what Adesina is trying to say is this. Can you take a look at the GDP you have been parroting? That it is not working. Because why? Your population increases by the day. The way you are producing children, particularly in the north, is so much. You have over 22 million children out of school. Now, the president removed subsidy. He took money from ordinary Nigerians and gave it to governors. Governors now have more money. But we're asking, where is the impact? Where is the impact? But the Constitution says in Section 162, subsection 3, that all monies generated by the Federation must be paid into the Federation account and shared by the federal, state, and local government. So what will the president do? He has to give it to the governors, but have the governors been doing anything? What have they been doing? They've been embarking on frivolous, wasteful expenditure. Wasteful expenditure, just junketing about. I learned that one governor, one political event he was involved in, that he spent over 1 billion naira on that event. Just one event. Because they have more money. But they lack the necessary wisdom and economic ability, to use those resources for the good of their people. Look at the governor of Anambra State, Professor Charles Soludo. He said that Anambra State has not, that his administration has not borrowed any money. There is internally generated revenue of the state that has been using, plus allocations from federation accounts. But can you say the same thing of other governors? There are some states where their people are wondering, do we have a governor in this state? So when you look at all of these things, you will find out that it's easy for people to run away. Look at Lagos, for instance. There are people who argue that Lagos should be far better than what it is. Yes. Because if you look at it, they tell you by GDP, Lagos is the 5th largest economy in Africa. But is this what we're talking about?
Because looking at the Human Development Index, like this, it's not.
It's a different picture. Even though I know successive governments in Lagos State have actually tried in the area of education, health, and all. But you see, Lagos State government itself said it would pay, or it has paid subsidy to 18.5 million residents. So that means they have backtracked on the 22 million population they said Lagos had. They've come down to 18.5 million. But you see, catering to 18.5 million people every day is not a joke. You got to look at their food. You got to look at social services. You got to look at so many things.
But is it even sustainable? Because
that is what I've done. You have to engage in policies that are sustainable. But I want to tell you that there are a lot of policies today that are not sustainable. So you just take people out. Okay, look at the president. He brought out tax reform bills, but the states were opposing it. Why? They want more money. They are always fighting. Governors are always fighting, bring more money. But they are not telling you how much more effort they are going to put into developing their states. And that's why President Muhammadu Buhari, when he was president, he's one of his ministers, was it Jedi Agba, the Minister of State for National Planning, said the basic problem of Nigeria is at the grassroots. Now that's where you have more people. They have more people in the urban and rural areas than you have in the urban areas. So that if we cannot deal with poverty in those places, then we're joking. And is that not what the World Bank has said now?
It's very true.
That a large number of Nigerians in rural areas are poor. Do you know? I mean, the three of us sitting on this table, it's possible we have been sending money to our people back home.
Of course.
Is it supposed to be like that? Is it not in the rural areas that you have the farms? You don't have federal food. You have a federal Minister of Agriculture, but you don't have federal farmers. Do you have federal farmers? All politics is local. Farming, agriculture is local. But the people are poor. They cannot go to their farms. In many states, they can't go to their farms because of the criminals in those farms, in the forests. They can't go to their farms. The people are just left in a state of helplessness. So all this talk about GDP, rebasing GDP, the other time, some weeks ago, they talked about that they are rebased GDP, that they are rebased the inflation rate. But they didn't do anything. It didn't do it because the inflation rate has been steadily rising again. So when you do not properly calibrate the processes by which you calculate economic development, you will just be winking in the dark. And that was what Dr. King went additional. But look at how Dawei Onanuga spoiled the whole thing. He said he's talking like P2B. You see, when you reduce,
I was just trying to.
When you reduce,
I was trying to place.
When you reduce serious issues to triangulation, okay, this teacup should actually be sparkling white. But if not that it's on top of this saucer, it will be shining white. Tell me what that has to do with anything. If you didn't wash this teacup well, or if you wash the saucer better than you did wash the teacup, there'll be a difference. So why are you now dragging P2B into the issue? We're talking about economic activities. How many people around the world know P2B? But you know what you're doing now? More people are going to go and make a research about P2B. Who is this P2B?
Yes, that can speak like the
you are saying he's giving him more popularity.
That is it. And you are by deflecting, by engaging in triangulation, psychological trick of triangulation. What you are doing is that people will go and say, this P2B they keep talking about, who is this man? Instead of looking at the issues, look at Trump now. Yesterday, he submitted his budget for 2026, $1.7 trillion budget. And in that budget, he has said that he has proposed that the U.S. government will stop contributing to the African Development Fund. It is an initiative of the African Development Bank. Now, the African Development Fund has done a lot. Nigeria has benefited over $6.2 billion from the African Development Fund. Now, that money is not going to be available. That money came in useful during COVID. It was one of the things that helped us stabilize during COVID. And in some other initiatives, health and all of those, vaccination, girls, the girl child and all of those things. But now that money will no longer be available from the U.S. Although there are some other, I think the U.S. contributes 6% of the total annual budget, of the African Development Fund. There are other donors too. But you see, every kobo counts. In economics, every kobo counts. So now, if the U.S. Senate passes that bill like that, if it approves that, it's going to be a big drawback to Africa. Even though people say, why are you people always begging? Well, it doesn't work. The world doesn't work like that. Because some of these things also have to do with technical capacity, which we lack. How many Nigerians are there? Do we know how many we are? We have a big problem of counting, like one of my former bosses would say. We don't know how many we are. We don't know how many barrels of crude we produce. We don't know how many vehicles are on Nigerian roads. We don't know anything. So, what is it? It just estimates. We just keep guessing. And so, if you are trying to counter Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, know that the whole world is watching you. But Bayo Onanuga seems to have a fixation with Peter Obi. That maybe if, he cannot, he wakes up in the morning and he's having a bad day, it's Peter Obi. If his salary is delayed, it's Peter Obi. I mean, when you reduce serious arguments, economic arguments, to banal issues, to banal personal, hateful, personal prejudice, then what do? You make people laugh at you. And he has put the presidency to ridicule. Because this has to do with just basic argument. So will the Tinubu administration now kindly move away from that GDP trap to the HDI? So that way you can look at it, that okay, how many people use Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, for instance, every day? How can we make their lives safer? As I was coming here, there was a woman who was knocked down by a bike, running one way on the expressway. So how can you make Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, safer? Because, like it is said, that is the busiest highway in West Africa. So how can you make it safer? Because of the number of people who use it. Why isn't there a bridge at Kara or at Opik, a pedestrian bridge? Why don't you have like 20 pedestrian or 30 pedestrian bridges on this expressway so that people can cross the expressway? Why should we in 21st century, on an international highway, why should people be crossing the highway? It is a retrogressive idea. So what we need to do is that we must tell ourselves the truth. In 1960, didn't we have more steady power supply? We had ECN then, Electricity Corporation of Nigeria. When there was going to be an outage, they will write. They will put it in the newspaper that there will be an outage in so and so area for so and so, a period of time. But today, you just hear children say, "Up NEPA."
And then maybe I actually saw an advertorial. That should be 1960 something, where the ECN, isn't it? Okay, had helicopters that they used for monitoring
now NEPA,
of our national
NEPA even they herited it. And you know the thing, we don't even need helicopters today. There is something called SCADA. SCADA is an advanced equipment for real-time monitoring of facilities. You can use it it can tell you within the shortest possible time if there is a fault anywhere. That thing, as at 2-3 years ago, was around 300 million. Today, maybe it has got to 500 million. But why don't we have asked these people, Why don't we have SCADA on our national grid to know when it's failing? Because this thing doesn't just trip off like that.
Course,
It's gradual.
It gives you time. It gives you.
There was a time in Nigeria that Afam Power Station in Rivers State used to be like the generator of Nigeria. Anytime you had, and that was before you had all these gas stations. So anytime there was a problem on national grid, Afam will spring. Afam will still supply, will still supply power. I think that it was being managed by Shell or something. But today, what has happened? Everything just goes down at the same time.
So in other words, maintenance culture is another thing.
That's what I'm talking about, technical capacity. We have more facilities today. That was where Bayo Onwukeme missed it. We have more facilities today. We have a bigger population today. We have more responsibilities today. But do we have the technical capacity like they had? Look at Kainji Dam and others. We were built in 1962 now. Tafawa Balewa took a loan for two dams. Then you look at so many things. Chief Obafemi Awolowo, he start free education? And you see the number of children that were educated. In the East, Sir Michael Okpara, didn't he do the same thing? Education and all of that. They got one American company, to, is it D-Little or something, to draw up a development plan for the Eastern region. And that's how they built Transamadi in Port Harcourt. They built different things, The ACB, African Continental Bank, different ACB, also helped in providing loans to businessmen and others. That's why in different places, you have Bank of British West Africa. You had now, today's Wema Bank. It used to be Agbomagbe Bank. And different things here and there that the people could rely on. But today, more people are going into crypto. More people are going into scams, CBEX and the rest of them. Because why? You're an entrepreneur. You need a loan of maybe 1 million naira. They'll ask you to go and bring your grandfather's birth certificate. They will give you conditions. So at the end of the day, how do you make a headway? And that is what they're talking about.
Emeka, I've always thought about this particular idea, and I do not know how I can sell this idea to almost every state governor in Nigeria. Do you think it makes any sense if a governor takes up the challenge of creating industrial hubs in every senatorial district in their state? Every state has...
No, but they have now. In Lagos State, you have a number of industrial estates.
Not industrial estates where people live, because industrial estates we have right now, before you know what happens, it's now residential estates. But
yes, about is it not the market that people will buy that you display? Abi? Is the market that people, if more people are buying teacups and saucers, is that not what real estate people, if people are buying more for residential, that's what realtors will market now.
Yeah, so
because when you talk about industrial, where is the power? Where is the security? That's the problem. So you find out that we need to deal with, for instance, that power problem. To the extent that Aso Rock now has surrendered, that they cannot be paying for 7 billion naira every year as an electricity bill. So they have now, like the rich have done in Nigeria, the rich and powerful, they've now created for themselves 10 billion naira solar. You saw the Lagos State Deputy Governor, or Dr. Obafemi Hamzat, saying the other day that the bill they have been giving him, the bill is too high, within that period, they quickly mounted solar panels on his roof. Have you heard him say anything again? That is it. The rich in Nigeria, they know how to take care of themselves. But was that what it was as independence? No. Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa will go to his village in today's Bauchi State. There was a BBC reporter that went to interview him in his village. Prime Minister was sitting on the ground with two children.
With two children, yeah.
Prime Minister of Nigeria was sitting on the ground with two children.
Unfortunately, ours go to France.
Yeah, for where? How dare you sit on the ground? It's impossible. When you talk about GDP per capita, 1,800 something. By today, we shouldn't be talking of 800 something, because you know what? The value of the naira today is worse than it was at the time the naira was invented. Was it 1976 or 1978? Can you compare it to what the naira was to the British pound, to the US dollar? You cannot. So 1 naira was exchanging for, I think, $1 at a time. 75 British pounds at the time. So, do you have that today? You don't have that. So, when we look at all these things, do you know the 2025 budget is 45 trillion. But go through the budget, all the budgets, previous budgets of 2023, 2022, 2021 and all of that. They are of more economic and monetary value
than what we have.
Than the 45 trillion. So, why should there be an argument? Why should there be an argument? Because it's business. Yes, Nigeria has made strides. I mean, yes, we agree. But the point is that the World Bank said it that over 133 million Nigerians are in multi-dimensional poverty. There's a world poverty clock that has put Nigeria as a poverty capital of the world. So telling us you are doing reforms is all balderdash. Let me give you an example quickly. Do you know from Lagos to London, it's more expensive than from Accra to London? Somebody said he flew the other day, there's 11,000 pounds, Lagos to London. Accra to London, he said it's 5,000 pounds. Within the same Africa, the same West Africa. So when we allow, you see, when we allow our people go through all these horrendous experiences, of course we can guess why foreign airlines, why airlines would get away with some of these things. Why? Because there are allegations that they have some of these officials in their pockets. So you want to fly, they give you free flight ticket. How can you challenge them? How can you challenge them? That is the issue. So our leaders, and one of the things that Bayo Onwukeme missed in what Dr. Adesina said was this. Can you compare the character, the character of the leaders we had at 1960 with the character of the leaders we have today? The answer is no. The Premier of the Northern Region, Ahmadu Bello, used to ride in an open vehicle then. Open vehicle. Today, our governors move as if they are emperors. You want to talk about the president? He was in Katsina the other. Look at the entourage. You see a governor, ordinary minister of FCT, yes, on weekend moves about in a Rolls Royce. But yet, he went to China to go and beg China to come and finance development projects in the FCT. How will they take you seriously? Does the Chinese premier, does he ride in a Rolls Royce? You see, the other problem is character. It's very, very important.
Very, very true. Character, so very important. And the lack of it, or the deficit of it in Nigeria, is what has brewed, unfortunately, the situation we have today in Nigeria, where nothing seems to be working. And we truly do hope that that will change if it's ever possible. We just have to let it rest for now. And thank you so very much, Emeka, for being part of it. We truly do appreciate you. And that's the time we have, Jane.
Right, like you said, Henry, we hope that everything turns around for us in Nigeria as it affects both a whole number of majority of Nigerians. Tomorrow again will be another time to join us on Enterprise Morning. Thank you for being part of the show.
Thank you so very much. I'm Henry Igwebike.
And I'm Jane Aina.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Have yourself a splendid day. Bye-bye.